Good morning, everybody, and welcome to KTZed Redemption, episode number 5, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon, because, I always say that it's morning. That's like my favorite line from Back to the Future, by the way. I don't know if you know that, I don't know if you know that's my favorite movie even, but yeah, like my favorite line from Back to the Future 2, when they had the Reagan computer program up there, and he's like, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon.
I don't even remember that line.
Yeah, that was the best. That's why I start the show the way that I do here. But this is KTZed Redemption. My name is Jay Edgar. We have, as always, a lot of stuff to get to. And this might actually seem like a repeat of last week's episode because, what are we talking about right on the top? Rogan and the trucker convoy right away again. So, yeah. But we've got a lot of stuff to get to over here today. This is going to be a big one too. I guess before I get into that, how was your week? I don't know that I've talked to you that much other than today because, we're not going to talk about that on air, but...
we talked a little bit today. I had a good week. Very, very busy at work right now, but getting it done. I can only do what I can do in the hours that I'm there, and then I have to shut it off and have a real life.
Real life, what's that?
Yeah.
Although it seems, we're in a couple of group chats together, and it seems like the food has been coming out well, at least.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I'm very busy this week, so I don't know how much I'm going to get to cook, but I did go grocery shopping, and I have that pork roast that I made for you when you were here. I have that again, so that's going to be sometime this week.
Well, I can tell you that if you make the tacos like we were talking about there, if you throw some pickled red onions on the top, that just makes them better.
Yes, absolutely. Dave doesn't like that, so I always make them and just put them on mine.
Yeah, they're delicious. But we do have a lot to get to this week here, and we've got to stay right on. We got to practice being on task because I know you've got a hard out next week. So
I do. It's Valentine's Day.
It is one that I don't typically celebrate, so we'll see what happens with that. But we got to update on the Rogan story here because Rogan has apologized, and I've actually got the video of his apology, which you never apologize, but Joe seems to think that he should do this, so we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that and where this all came from, because he's not apologizing for the misinformation. He's apologizing for something else that came up this week, so we'll talk about that. Plus now, on top of that, Whoopi Goldberg got brought into the cancel culture as well. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there. I've actually got video of her statements too. So we'll talk just a bit about there. And I do feel a little suspicion on the timing of Whoopi's event. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. The Ottawa protest has continued to the dismay of some of the people there. Like, this was just getting ready to get started when we were on air last week. And it's on in full swing here. People are trying to say that they're dispersing. They're not. The military was threatened to be called in, and then the military said, no, we're not going to do that, I want to touch on a robbery that was reported to have happened, but, no police report was ever filed, too, because apparently the truckers were going in demanding food from a soup kitchen and then assaulted a homeless man, but, no police reports were filed, so...
Not sure I believe that story.
Yeah, and then they're also talking about doing this now in D.C., so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. Probably a little short one here, but something I thought that took more discussion than what goes in the lightning round here. Jeff Zucker abruptly retired this week, and some details have come out about what's happened there. Apparently he was having an affair with his right-hand woman, Allison, throughout the time, but, neither one of them were married, so he felt that he needed to disclose it out there. He didn't disclose it, and that warranted him being removed from his post, and, well, I think there's more going on.
There's got to be.
There's got to be, but we'll talk a little bit about that. One that I want to spend a little bit of time on this week, so like I said, we've got to stay on the clock a little bit with this, is some stuff that happened within about 6 hours on Thursday morning. within the few 6 hours, there was a strike in Syria.
Mhm.
And then Biden announced that he's going to try and cure cancer once again. And in the midst of a couple speeches, he also had a very, very big Second Amendment gaffe about what was happening when the Second Amendment was ratified. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on there. And if we can pull to that, I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's moving through the Senate right now, including the fact that the Build Back Better bill is apparently dead. Some controversy about the SCOTUS pick, whoever she may be, and a little bit of controversy surrounding, I cannot think of his first name, but Senator Lujan from New Mexico, who had a pretty major stroke, but that's not what the mainstream media talked about. They talked about what this means strategically for the Senate, and I thought that was kind of insensitive.
Absolutely.
Plus, I got a little bit of a double surprise stupidity for you here because I found one that I was planning on going up onto the surprise stupidity, and then another one almost immediately earlier today coming out of your home state that I think you're going to enjoy. I don't think it's a surprise to you. I think you know about it. I looked at it and I looked at your Twitter, so I think you know about it, but it's still really
Oh, okay.
stupid. So I think that you'll enjoy that. We'll have a little bit of a laugh at that over here on Zed Redemption. Thanks everybody for tuning in with us live over on YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for checking us out on all those platforms. And if you can't catch us live, you can catch us back on demand on YouTube and over on BitChute. So go check us out. Linked in the description, both of those channels. And if you can't catch us live and you want to take us on the go, I'm still trying to get back into it and actually got to adjust my payment settings on Podbean. If you replace both of your cards at the same time within the same week, it messes up your life. I lost
Really?
my debit card and then my credit card expired in the same week.
Yeah.
So everything
I
that's
had
attached to both of them has to be updated on payment information. I keep getting emails, oh, your payment didn't process, your payment didn't process.
I had that same situation. My wallet was stolen last January at a Walmart. Ladies, just a little pro tip, don't put your purse in the cart and then walk away and shop because that's what happened. Somebody just reached and took my wallet. I didn't even realize it until I got to the checkout, but every single card was gone. And then the same thing that happened to you. None of my automatic payments processed. I was late on stuff. It was horrible. So good luck with that.
Yeah, I think Podbean is the last because I've only got two cards. I've got the debit card and the credit card. I don't feel like having a whole bunch of other cards out there for that, so I
Yeah.
just got the two. And yeah, I think Podbean is the last one that I had an automatic payment. And I have to update my Amazon too because I haven't updated either of those cards
Yeah.
since then. And I want to order something.
Yeah.
All right, we got to get into it here because we have got a bunch of stuff to go with off of this. Starting off, we've got to go say, well, hope you guys are all better to our friends in Texas because once again, we have a major winter storm that passed through Texas this week. Now it looks like everything is done, everything's all cleaned up, and they got some warmer weather shortly after all this happened. But everybody had to come out and talk about: is there going to be power? Is Ted Cruz going to go to Cancun? Is this going to be that? But to read from CNN, heavy snow falling as storm system threatens to leave a treacherous mix of wintry precipitation for millions from plains to the northwest. So, and I mean, this wasn't just Texas either. This stretched all the way up through Ohio, through New England. They got a nor'easter up there. So this was devastating. But I mean, the northern states like that. And you live in Georgia.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that you said. We don't have plows.
We don't have plows. And on top of that, it wouldn't even be so bad to drive on flat snow, but you've been here. You know how hilly it is.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even, it snowed here before where I can't even get out of my neighborhood. My car just slides backwards down that hill.
I could get out of your neighborhood, but yeah, definitely. But yeah, and like I say, it looks like everything's all up. Doesn't look like there were any major emergencies because with Greg Abbott being the governor, if Texas had encountered some major emergency, that would be the frontline news for everything, and it really wasn't. So good on Texas for catching back up to everything and reinforcing your system. One that was happening as we were on air last week, and we were being reminded of it by our friends over on the other side of the pond. Reading from Reuters, England plans to revoke mandatory COVID jabs for health workers. This is no author given from Reuters. The British government plans to revoke its decision to make the pinko-pox jab mandatory for health workers in England after warnings that an already stretched service could face serious staff shortages. And I mean, even here, there were talks about that, and they're losing people left and right because, and it's not, well, some of it is a government mandate, but a lot of that is private company mandate.
Absolutely, it's ridiculous. If we're in such a pandemic that we need all of these healthcare workers because everyone's getting sick, why on earth would you put caveats to their employment that's not going to affect them? I'm sure most of these people, most of the nurses and staff, either have already had COVID, so they have natural immunity, or they just don't want to get it and want to take their chances because they're healthy, young, and don't have any comorbidities.
All right.
Let the people decide for themselves.
If you well, let's listen to it. It sounds like you were dropping off on the top again, so we'll check. Well, let's listen to it out a little bit first because that was the first time it happened. But we'll check settings again if it keeps happening. But we got to keep going here. So. Looking in at the Hill, employees quit over catch the virus promotion in Washington State bar. I almost did this one for surprise stupidity because this was stupid. So a bar in Washington, the Vessel Tap House. Apparently, one of the employees went rogue, is what they're telling me, but I don't think that's quite how it happened. I just think that's how they're trying to PR it right now. But allegedly, one of the employees went rogue, and they started a promotion of a catch the virus promotion. You got there was gonna be live music at this tap house, and admission was $10 or $6 with a proof of an Omicron positive test. Have you had enough yet?
I think that's amazing. I want to hire this guy, whoever he is.
Well, his name hasn't been released. I mean, we can hear from the owner of the Vessel Tap House, Steve Hartley, on some of this stuff. But yeah, like I say, I think that this was something that was up off the top, and then it went on a PR nightmare, and a bunch of bands quit, and a bunch of employees quit on top of all this. And, then they threw one guy under the bus.
I'm sure
That's what it sounds like to me.
It sounds like everyone was joking about it, and they just needed to throw somebody to the wolves.
Well, and not only that, the other thing that I thought about after I read this article on Contemporary was you don't know what variant you got on your test.
Yeah, I've taken many tests. Only one tested positive, but they don't tell you what it is. Even my in-laws were hospitalized, and they don't even know what strain they had.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I do think that this was kind of a big joke that took off, but I mean, in Washington, you can kind of see where this might not have gone over well.
Absolutely. That's what you get for living in Washington.
Yeah. Reuters brings us the next one here. Horse paste shows antiviral effect against COVID. Japanese company says, and I don't know if we're still allowed to say that word on YouTube or not, but I'm going to avoid it at this point here. But so we're just going to call it horse paste for now. Japanese Trading and Pharmaceuticals Company, Kowa Company Limited, on Monday said that the anti-parasite drug horse paste showed an antiviral effect against. I almost said it right there. Did you catch that? Showed an antiviral effect against Ermagerd and other coronavirus variants in a joint non-clinical research. The company, which has been working with Tokyo's Kitasato University, is testing the drug as a potential treatment for the pinko pox. Did not provide further details. The original Reuters story misstated that horse paste was effective against Ermagerd in phase 3 clinical trials, which are conducted on humans. So it looks like they're at phase 2 off of this, but it is showing a significant antiviral effect. Once again, kind of coming back here and saying, hey, we told you this.
Yeah, we knew this from the beginning. And I remember when, speaking of Joe Rogan, when he took the horse paste, and everyone just got, like, even mainstream media was talking about what his doctors prescribed him and all this other stuff. Quick, I know we're going to stay on topic. I know you keep telling me, but I had a very good friend of mine who is a Democrat. I was at her house this last weekend, and she was telling me a story about one of her friends took the horse paste, and she's like, "Can you believe that she took horse paste?" And I'm like, "Well, did her doctor prescribe it to her?" And she's like, "No, it's horse medicine." And this woman has a dog who's diabetic, and I said, "Is insulin dog medicine only?" And she's like, no. I said, doctors prescribe it. She had no idea. So I like to drop little red pills here and there and see if she'll pick them up. So hopefully she Googled it and has a little bit of a red pill.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Another one out of your household here, and I only picked his quote tweet off of this because of the caption. Jen Psaki had to talk about what was going on in Russia with this, but the quote tweeted caption made this the best here because Mr. Zed tweets out, "What in the ridiculous sister-loving hell?" when the red-haired bobblehead had this to say.
When the fox is screaming from the top of the henhouse that he's scared of the chickens, which is essentially what they're doing, that fear isn't reported as a statement of fact. And as you watch President Putin screaming about the fear of Ukraine and the Ukrainians, that should not be reported as a statement of fact. We know who the fox is in this case. When the fox is...
What?
Ridiculous. Perfectly described right there. He's a wordsmith, I tell you.
I feel like that speech sounded better in the writer's room.
I don't know. It sounded better in her head, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, and I feel like this was written for her and she just botched it. Because it seems like there's a point somewhere adjacent to what she's trying to say, but she just can't quite grasp to it.
Trying too hard. Definitely trying too hard.
So that's what we see coming off of that. I wanted that one for the caption. I didn't really care. I haven't really cared about the Ukraine since I kind of realized there was no strategic importance to the Ukraine, but I still wanted to have that caption on air.
Absolutely. He comes up with some good ones every now and again. He keeps me on my toes.
From WTOP News, DC's bar's liquor license is suspended for violating the Pinko Pox regulation. And this is, I guess, kind of an important one because this is a relatively well-known establishment in DC. I asked Stephen about it, and he said he's played this particular venue before on numerous occasions. And this was at least somewhat well-known in the area. So let's read on. A DC bar and restaurant, the Big Board, had its alcohol beverage license suspended for violating the city's emergency public health regulations enacted because of the Pinko fucking Pox. The DC Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Administration issued the suspension Friday, effective immediately to the bar, situated at 4th and H Street Northeast. At lunchtime Saturday, other nearby eateries on the block were welcoming diners while the Big Board was closed. White signs taped to the pub's glass promised the establishment would be open Saturday at 5 p.m. and Sunday starting at 3 p.m., which it appears that it was not, from what I've read further into the story. But, I mean, I thought that these people, especially because DC is a Democrat-run city, I thought these people were all about the little people.
Apparently
How many
not.
waitresses, waiters didn't go to work that day or for that week?
I mean, probably not just including this venue, but in general, they're really hurting. Here's the thing with wait staff: even if they get paid by their employer their hourly wage, there's not enough to live off of. Like they need to be at work and they need to be serving people. So this is it's I know I've said it a lot and it's been said for years, but this is ridiculous. They need to let people govern themselves. If you're willing to risk your health to go and have a meal or go see a show or whatever, do it. Let them.
Well, and it appears that the owner actually said that he wasn't going to comply with the vaccination requirements, like he wasn't going to check cards. So I'm sure that factored into everything too, which it's just like especially a well-known establishment that
Absolutely.
would do something like this.
He should have just kept it to himself and just not checked the cards. The fact I think because he said it, that's the issue.
Here's one that'll make a few people stand up and take notice about what's happening with the White House, because the White House has claimed that they're going to fix this entire job situation. And they said that in January, they were going to add 225,000 new jobs. We're expecting 225,000 new jobs. And then they lost 301,000 jobs off of payrolls.
Well, and what's crazy about that is they're just, I believe, when I read this article, that they're just judging off of last year's numbers. We're not even anywhere near where we were as far as jobs from the 2019 numbers.
Hmm.
Not even close. They need to get their shit together.
Yeah, they're not going to get their shit together though. That's part of the problem. But I mean, you're a 500,000 jobs off, and you're in the negative on top of that too. And that's the new jobs that people are seeking out right now.
Yeah, this isn't including people who've just given up and stopped looking for jobs or have started their own, under the counter type of business.
No, this the number that we're talking about here is employers adding new jobs into the marketplace, or in this case, taking them back out. Not the people. This is where people looked around and said, "Okay, shit, I'm getting busier. I need more people. Let's throw another job out there. Let's throw another job out there." That's what they're talking about with this. And the
But
unemployment number actually this week didn't do much better for them either. So,
people cannot, companies can't hire people because there's so many restrictions put upon them
mhm.
by local and state governments. Not here. That's why I live here. But they can't hire people because they don't have the business to do it because of all the restrictions and the fact that the government doesn't understand that this is their fault. You did this. You made this bed.
Yeah.
And then they're going to complain about companies not hiring people. Like, who am I going? What am I going to hire him to stand, lean against the room?
Well, I mean, you can see that coming from the government ideal, especially if you come working in a government union. They
Yeah,
hire three people to go dig a hole. One
two
person
of them
digs
just
the hole,
stand
and two
there.
people sit in their shovel watching them.
Yep, exactly.
So that's what we see off of that. Let's grab one from KTLA. Universal healthcare bill fails in California Assembly. Ha! Ha! A bill that would have created the nation's only government-funded universal healthcare system died in the California Assembly on Monday as Democrats could not gather enough support to bring it for a vote ahead of the legislative deadline.
You don't say.
Even California can't get enough support to make a universal healthcare bill, and they want to do it nationwide.
Yeah, nobody wants this.
People who
There's no there's
people who
no
jump
way
from
they'll be able
job
to
to
do it.
job
Yeah.
that can't keep healthcare up because they keep changing jobs. They want this.
Yeah. That's it. I have great health care through my company. I don't
Hmm.
I don't need universal health care.
But then everyone will have the same healthcare as everyone else. Yeah, and it'll suck.
Yeah, so people who have good health insurance will have worse health insurance, and people who have no health insurance will have mediocre health insurance. Like, why are you going to punish people that can pay for their health care?
Yeah. But that's just
Doesn't
funny
make
to me.
sense.
Like I say, I mean, in progressive California, they can't even do this.
I mean, there's a lot of based people in California. It's just the cities. They have too many cities in California. There's based people everywhere. It's just states that have a lot of big cities go blue because it's cities that are voting for this shit. It's not anybody else.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like what I say in Wisconsin too. Any statewide race or ballot proposal in Wisconsin typically gets decided by Madison, Milwaukee. In
Yeah.
California, it's Los Angeles, Sacramento, and
San
San
Francisco.
Francisco. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. San Diego goes red.
Yeah. So, haha, progressives in California. Did you hear about the Nazi rally in Florida?
No, I would have went.
Ron DeSantis is hammering Democrats trying to smear him over neo-Nazi rally. We're not playing their game. And I saw David Hogg tweeting about this, and that's pretty much the only reason I know about it. But apparently there were 6 people standing outside of Starbucks with swastika signs.
Oh no. They'll never be defeated. Neo-Nazis are
And
on the rise.
and they tried to attach it to Ron DeSantis because he didn't come back and get it shut down right away.
Why should it be shut down? They have the same freedom of speech as David Hogg does. If they
I
want
don't
to
know.
stand there with a Nazi sign, that's fine by me.
I was kind of entertained by the video clip about it, which I've got here queued up ready to go, because just sitting in the background, Ron DeSantis sitting here talking, and I don't know if it's a Pepsi or if it looks like a beer. But there's Marco Rubio sitting there on the right, just casually drinking a beer.
So what I'm going to say is these people, these Democrats who are trying to use this as some type of political issue to try to smear me as if I had something to do with it, we're not playing their game. You know, some jackasses, you know, doing this on the street. First of all, state law enforcement is going to hold them accountable because they were doing stuff on the overpass. So they're absolutely going to do that, and they should do that. But I'm not going to have people try to smear me that belong to a political party that has elevated anti-Semites to the halls of Congress like Ilhan Omar, that have played footsie with the BDS movement, that even have people in their party that have cavorted with Farrakhan. No, we're going to take our record in Florida and what we've done, sign the strongest anti-Semitism bill in the country. We've stared down companies who were indulged in BDS like Airbnb, and we've won. We've provided record funding for Jewish day schools, and we've had the strongest relationship between Florida and Israel than we ever had in terms of education, business, all these tremendous things that have happened since our state visit in 2019.
Yeah, I don't know if I would brag about that last part, but, you know, there it is. There's Marco Rubio just fucking drinking a beer in the background.
Definitely just sipping on it.
Yeah. So that's what we're seeing off of this. A little bit of bad news. The Army is immediately discharging vaccine refusers. Now, they are the last branch to do so at this point, it looks like. But, it's immediate up at this point. Reading from NBC7 out of San Diego, the Army said Wednesday it will immediately begin discharging soldiers who have refused to get the mandatory vaccine, putting more than 3,300 service members at risk of being thrown out soon. The Army's announcement makes the final military service to lay out its discharge policy for vaccine refusers. The Marine, Air Force, and Navy have already discharged active duty troops or entry-level personnel at boot camps for refusing the shots. So far, the Army has not discharged any.
I mean, did it mention if their discharge will be an honorable or dishonorable discharge? Because that makes a huge difference in somebody's life.
It does not mention that in the article, but I know that that Lloyd and Blinken were talking about doing that as a dishonorable. I don't know if they won with that or not.
If that happens, I mean, that's horrible. That's a horrible thing to do to somebody. Like, it's one thing to say, okay, well, you're not going to get the vaccine. You can't stay here. You got to go. But they need to at least not ruin the rest of their lives over a freaking shot. It's that would be ridiculous. I would be very upset if that is the case.
Yeah. So it looks like that is going to. There have been 3,000 that have requested a medical or religious exemption. I don't know how many this is actually going to affect. There was a point, Brady Leonard from the No Gimmicks podcast was tweeting back and forth with me, where he's suspecting this is going to be like 42,000 soldiers that this is going to affect.
It's crazy. That's a crazy amount. And at the same time, we're talking about messing around over in Ukraine.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. What else do we got here? This one. I wanted to put this at the top, and I don't know why the hell I didn't. The Daily Wire tweets out, "All right, Grandpa, let's get you to bed." And a short little 5-second clip of Jill leading the leader of the free world out like an Alzheimer's patient.
It looks like she's leading like a donkey that doesn't want to go, like coaxing him along, like, come on, old man, come on.
That is the person that has the nuclear codes.
Why'd you have to put it like that, Ed? Now I'm worried for everyone's safety. And we're getting rid of half of the army, so maybe not half, but you know.
From Fox News, lockdowns only reduce the pinko pox mortality by 0.2%. Study finds lockdown should be rejected out of hands. And this wasn't coming from The Guardian. This wasn't coming from some right-wing think tank. This was coming from Johns Hopkins in
You don't,
Baltimore.
you don't say, Johns Hopkins. Like,
What what have we been doing for the last 2 years if we're not doing anything like this, and why is it still going?
there's no reason for it. There's absolutely no reason for any of this. It should have been done after the 2 weeks to slow the spread. That's when
Yeah.
this should have ended. And honestly, when that happens, I thought that was going too far. Now look at us. Just look at us. We're 2.5, well, 2 years in, just about.
Hmm.
It's crazy the extent that this has gone on. They need to string us along a little bit further. It's almost midterms, and then they're going to string us along another 2 years because it's almost re-election time. It's just
Hmm.
going to keep going. They're already talking about wearing masks for the rest of forever on airplanes.
Yeah. So that's what we see off of that. Just a couple more here. This one I should have thrown into the Senate one, but I wanted to touch on this one. Senate introduces bill to allow farmers to fix their own equipment. So, and this has been something that's been going on for a little while, and it's been talked about it because so much stuff in the repair industry, especially in the agriculture, but in the automotive industry as well, has become so proprietary that you can't take it to an independent shop because they don't have either this computer software to diagnose it, to clear the code, as they say, or to even get it done up there. And yeah, if this bill goes through, that's going to be huge for people who have to go fix something in the field, or people who have to go back or want to start an independent business,
Why
because then they can get back into it.
are they not allowed to fix their own equipment now?
They can't.
Like, this is new to me. I'm not a farmer.
Yeah.
Surprise.
They're allowed to, but they can't because they don't have the software to get to it because it's John Deere proprietary or Case proprietary or whoever proprietary.
See, this is why I don't like iPhones and Apple shit. Everything's proprietary.
Hmm.
Yeah. I hope this passes. Like, it would mean a lot to the farmers to be able, like, they have the wherewithal and the know-how to fix stuff. Let them fix it.
And yeah, basically what this does is it forces the companies to open source
Hmm.
everything so that everyone can get access to it and get it in. Kind of like OBD2 was supposed to do when it came out on the automotive side, but then everybody started finding other ways to lock down their proprietary software.
Yeah.
Because OBD2 was supposed to make it universal.
I don't know what OBT2 is, but I
That
assuming,
little kind of
judging from the
trapezoidal.
context clues, something about cars and fixing your own car.
If you look under your steering wheel, there's a little trapezoidal plug that they plug
Uh-huh.
into when they want to scan the code. That's OBD2.
Oh, gotcha. I would like to know if there's a way to update my car's navigation system to current maps. That's what I
That
need
I
to
can't
know.
tell you. I just use
I
the one
have
on my phone.
I have a 10-year-old car and none of the maps are the right anymore.
All right. Just a couple more here, then we'll get in and we'll talk a little bit about Rogan. From the Daily Wire, this would be my third abortion. Pregnancy activist takes abortion pill live on TV. This was such a messed up story. I couldn't even begin. So not only is this thing non-binary, it had to make sure because it found out that it got pregnant as it was going on to WJBK Fox 2 Detroit's Let It Rip. It found out that it was pregnant and it decided it wanted to terminate its pregnancy live on air.
I think we could call it she, if she's pregnant, first of all.
That's fair.
I have less of a problem with this than, like, this is like the morning after pill, correct?
No, this is between the morning after pill and the surgery.
Oh, yeah, no, I have a problem with this for sure. I was thinking it was like the morning after pill.
No.
Yeah, I have a huge problem with this. Why are we normalizing this? This is not rare and in extreme circumstances. Like, this is using this as a form of birth control. You don't murder people as a form of birth control. This is just evil. This is evil.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin on a story like this one.
Trying to normalize killing your baby is evil.
And I talked a bit about this morning too when they were talking about the Rhode Island sex ed classes and trying to normalize sex or teach about sex for pleasure. And I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, this is going down the homosexuality and the trans movement, because the trans people typically wind up becoming sterile, and the homosexuals, if if a dude is sticking it in another dude's butt, that nobody's getting pregnant for that.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
But that's what we see off of that. Got a tweet from Posobiec, and we're not going to go through the whole video on this one because we're up on the clock already. But one reporter bravely stood up to the press secretary for the Secretary of State, telling him what he actually thought about the Russia false flag attempt. Let's listen.
Thanks. Okay, well, that's quite a mouthful there. So you said actions such as these suggest otherwise. Suggest meaning they suggest they're not interested in talks and they're going to go ahead with some kind of what action are you talking about?
One, the actions I've just pointed to.
What action?
The fact that Russia continues to engage in disinformation campaigns.
You made an allegation that they might do that. Have they actually done it?
What we know, Matt, is what I have just said, that they have engaged in this activity, in this planning activity. But let me because obviously this is not the first time we've made these reports public. You'll remember that just a few weeks ago.
I'm sorry, made what report public?
If you'll let me finish, I will tell you what report we made public. We told you a few weeks ago that we have information indicating Russia also has already prepositioned a group of operatives to conduct a false flag operation in eastern Ukraine. So that, Matt, to your question, is an action that Russia has already taken.
It's an action that you say that they have taken, but you have shown no evidence to confirm that. And I'm going to get to the next question here, which is, what is the evidence that they... I mean, this is like crisis actors, really? This is like Alex Jones territory you're getting into then. What evidence do you have to support the idea that there is some propaganda film in the making?
So, and we listened to a little bit longer of that this morning, but I mean, this guy is not prepared for why are reporters actually asking me questions and not taking our word for it?
Like they said it was declassified. Why can't you just give him the link or whatever to get the whatever was declassified? It's an obvious question what this reporter is asking, and this guy is just tap dancing around it. Like I'm the source, I'm the news. Like just take it from me, just believe me. Like wink, wink, you know.
And I heard Steven say that was a Chad move, but I just look at this and I'm like, that's not a Chad move.
No,
especially with national security.
Exactly. It's not. It would be like in your regular life, whatever. But this is the government
fighting with another government that has nuclear weapons.
Absolutely. This is like no shit. Like we want the info, you know?
Yeah. All right. I'm actually going to skip the last one here. So we got one more after this because we don't need to talk about January 6th today. But I do have one more that I want to talk about, and then we'll get into the main news here. And that is that the RNC has advanced a resolution to censure Cheney and Kinzinger. I think this is a step too far.
Yeah, absolutely.
For Cheney, at least. Kinzinger, I don't know if he's going to face anything down from his voters, but Cheney already has.
The key to government is that you can get people out of office. Like let the people vote them out. Like there's no reason for this, in my opinion.
Yeah, and really honestly, when I looked at this, one of the things that I thought to myself was this is just advancing the narrative that the RNC has come down to become a part of the Trump cult at this point because they're just doing Trump's bidding and getting rid of Trump's political enemies.
The system is set up to take care of this sort of thing without the government stepping in to do it for us.
Or the political party.
Yeah, whoever. Yeah. Exactly. We don't need to.
Yeah, I mean, GOP, Wyoming GOP has already censured Liz Cheney.
Mm-hmm.
She's already been punished for defying the will of the people that voted for her.
Absolutely.
Kinzinger's district is gone.
There's nothing more that needs to be done.
Yeah. But they're going to continue to go back and do this. So
yeah,
that's what we see off of that here. Let's check in with the live chat. Let's see. We talked a little bit about this earlier. You wanna do this one, or you want me to?
You can go ahead and start, and I'll do the second batch. How about that?
All right. Let's see what we've got on here today. Life to the Max is here, is vibing on in. I don't know I didn't know that was from Back to the Future. Yep, that was me. Or that was Back to the Future. Quest is here. Seawall is here with the Armored Half-Track. Quest says, I recruited Eric and Judy into the food group within a day. We've got momentum. Yeah, that's kind of a fun group, and seeing what people cook.
It really is.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Quest is running over to D-Live, and Seawall is trying to convince him to stay over on the YouTube side. Randy says that story said the homeless guy tried entering one of the trucks and got shoved. Yeah, we'll talk about that. MK Ulmo, I'm guessing that's MK Ultra, is here. KTZed, of course, in the chat, making sure that everybody's behaving. Ben Ray Lujan, thank you, Ron Helton, for that. Ron Helton is here. Quest says Bill Beck butthurt. Major Victory is here. Double the stupid, and it's only Monday. Let's see. Quest is throwing a temper tantrum. He's banging his fist on the table and saying he wants it on demand. Seawall, our resident Texan, says, I had a grand total of 20 seconds of power outage during the storm. Oh, and my pipes froze.
That sucks. Frozen pipes suck.
They do. No damage to the pipes, though. Just a morning without water.
Could be worse.
Yeah, he can get mommy to bring him in his chalky milk when she comes in to refill the tendy vendor. Quest Fanning says they still won't tell you the variant prohibited by the CDC. Ron Helton says insulin for dogs. I heard a rumor that they breathe the same air that we breathe as well. That is wild.
Crazy.
Ron Helton says Peppermint Patty needs to lay off the peppermint schnapps while she's at work. Fanning says, the bars I go to regularly don't check the regulars. They check everyone else. It's common sense. Life to the Max had to take off. Only here for 5 seconds. Gotta go. God bless. Thank you. Major Victory says, so there's a negative job increase. Indeed, there is a negative job increase. I believe we might call that a job loss. Number 2 is here. Major Victory says, good evening, number 2.
What does number 2 work for?
I love that line. Grant has found a way to come back and do what I do in his Discord server all the time and given us the Stars of David. That was a nice touch. I like that, Grant. Thank you very much for that. A little bit of revenge for what I do in his server all the time. Oh, that's good. Randy says it should clearly be considered a medical discharge. I don't know enough about military policy for that. I don't know if you can weigh in on that.
Yeah, it does sound like it should be a medical discharge. If it's anything, if it has anything to do with medical, you would think it would be, but they can do whatever the hell they want. So who knows what they're going to do? But if they do a the reason why it pisses me off so much is that dishonorable discharge affects them for the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. You know, they can't put what they've been doing for the last 4 years or 8 years or however long, some of them 20 years in the military, if they're getting dishonorably discharged. You know.
All right. Grant has left me a challenge. I'm going to try it. Silly Sally swiftly shooed 7 silly sheep. The 7 silly sheep, Silly Sally shooed. Shilly shallied south. These sheep shouldn't sleep in a shack. Sheep should sleep in a shed.
That's not nice, Grant. Not nice at all. He thought I was going to be reading that. I can barely read as it is. What are you doing to me?
Ben Wild is here. Says, you know what would have deterred the COVID? Locking down politicians and making them wear muzzles and ball gags. For legal purposes, I might have to disavow that.
Yes, disavow.
Ben Wild says, if McDonald's can fix their own soft serve machine, farmers should be able to change a starter on a tractor. The problem is that McDonald's can't fix their own soft serve machine because there's a company in Rockford, Illinois, that makes all of that stuff.
That's proprietary.
Yep.
And there's a contract where that's the only machine they could have.
Spartan is here. It says on her 4th abortion, she will eat it live on TV.
Ugh.
Grant says, my evidence is the statement I just said. And Ben Wild says, evidence. We don't need no stinking evidence. Let's see. Randy says, the declassified document probably has 4 words on it that aren't blacked out. Yeah, it's a sheet of paper covered in Sharpie, and there are 4 words in it.
Yeah, the date, and that's it. And all of the ands and thes, not blacked out.
Grant says, Kinzinger claimed on fake news CNN that Donald Trump is the worst president ever. Fake news. Ron is still listening. He's working on the potatoes. Stephen Ignoramus is here.
Well, hello, Mr. Ignoramus.
I must have a certain glow about me because he's asking gay. So, I don't know. Maybe I tripped somebody's gaydar. Stephen is in rare form tonight. That's because he didn't get up early and do Daily Ignoramus today. But don't worry, I did a 3-hour contemporary.
You were on a long time. I came back right at the end as you were signing off.
So he got some extra sleep tonight. All right, and with that, we will circle back for the rest of this here. You can take the next shift off of this.
We're gonna have to circle back.
I know. Yep, with the bright red hair and the green shirt, we'll circle back. We have got to talk Rogan, which I can't believe we're doing this 2 weeks in a row as the top story. But of course, there was a number of things that have come up off of this story. Oops, this is in the wrong screen. There we go. First and foremost, so this is the big change in everything. So this past week, a video came out, and this was towards the end of the week, and was strung together 20 instances, and there were only 20. I counted them. 22, actually. There were 22 instances where Joe Rogan said the N-word on his podcast across 12 years, which, by the way, that is 4 episodes a week for 12 years.
He talks a lot.
So there are a lot of episodes where he didn't say the N-word.
Most of them. They were I
would say mostly, a vast majority.
Mostly peaceful, or mostly N-worded podcasts.
But the video was strung together. I could probably get the video if I really wanted to, but this was enough that Joe actually felt that he needed to apologize for this, out on air. And you don't apologize, obviously. But, I mean, to get us started off of this, let's listen to what Joe actually had to say. Hold on, because it's Instagram, I gotta set it up.
Okay.
It's a pain in the ass to do from Instagram, but...
Never apologize.
Let's listen.
Hello, friends. I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks fucking horrible, even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. I thought as long as it was in context, people would understand what I was doing. Like that context was part of the clip we were talking about Red Fox, how Red Fox said that word on television in the 1970s, and how times have changed so much since then. Or about how Richard Pryor used it as one of the titles of one of his albums. Or I was quoting a Lenny Bruce bit, or I was quoting a Paul Mooney bit, or I was talking about how Quentin Tarantino used it repeatedly in Pulp Fiction. Or I was talking about how a Netflix executive, ironically, used it because he was trying to compare it to another offensive word, and he said it out loud, and they fired him. Not calling anybody or just saying the word out loud. I was also talking about how there's not another word like it in the entire English language, because it's a word where only one group of people is allowed to use it, and they can use it in so many different ways. Like if a white person says that word, it's racist and toxic, but a black person can use it and it could be a punchline. It could be a term of endearment. It could be lyrics to a rap song. It could be a positive affirmation. It's a very unusual word, but it's not my word to use. I'm well aware of that now, but for years I used it in that manner. I never used it to be racist because I'm not racist, but whenever you're in a situation where you have to say, I'm not racist, you fucked up.
All right, that's all I'm going to listen to off of that, but well, what's the takeaway?
He shouldn't have apologized. Nobody else apologizes for that. Like, okay, people do apologize for that. However, there's absolutely no reason for him to apologize. There's no words that belong to some certain group of people and words that don't. Words are just fucking words. Words are words. He should say whatever the heck he wants. And the fact that he apologized made it worse. These people do not want to accept an apology from him. He could get down on his knees and beg for forgiveness. They're not going to accept it. They're trying to cancel him because of what he's saying about COVID. There's absolutely no reason other than that this compilation has come out right now.
Yeah, right now, that's the important part of that too, because what did we just see for an entire summer?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many other outlets that are on their side that use that word. The Young Turks, I saw a compilation not too long ago. It was said on TV on CNN. Was it CNN or MSNBC? One of the major news networks used that word on air on regular TV. Nobody's apologizing for that. They're not going to accept an apology. There's times to apologize. If you've done something wrong to someone you love, apologize to them. I messed up. I'm sorry. You want to repair that relationship. This relationship between Joe Rogan and the Democrats is not ever going to be repaired, so there's no reason to apologize.
Well, I guess that's the point that I was going to with when I said that as well. When I said, what happened a couple summers ago. If anybody in the world was really concerned about the racial aspect of this, because they were no friends to Rogan during what did the Democrats call it? The Summer of Love?
Yeah.
The St. George riots? They were no friends to Rogan at the time. So this compilation, this set of clips could have come up at that time, but it didn't. It came up at this time when he said something that they didn't like and didn't bow and cow down to the big pharma companies that are not totally laundering money through the government.
Yeah, right.
So that's, and it keeps going off this. Our friend Joy Behar has rejected this. Fox News reports. Joy Behar, host of ABC's liberal daytime gabfest The View, I love the way that they worded that, is rejecting comedian Rogan's apology following the criticism he's received from various celebrity musicians over some of the content on his podcast. So this one goes back to the half apology that he made about the COVID misinformation. This was all back of this, but Behar says, during a Monday segment focused on Rogan's podcast, The Rogan Experience, Behar claimed that this wasn't the first time the former UFC fighter has been chastised before going back to his craziness, and declared that she wasn't sure that he could be reformed.
Ridiculous. Some of the stuff that Joy Behar has said in her time talking on television, and she thinks other people need to be canceled or not have a job. Like, Joe Rogan is his own boss. He can do whatever. Joe Rogan does what Joe Rogan wants. And if he's going to get kicked off of, where is he, Spotify or whatever, he's just going to start his own shit. He'd probably make more money doing it that way too.
Well, I know Rumble, and I haven't gone through and verified this, but I've seen a couple posts on it yet today. Today, Rumble offered him $100 million to come over to Rumble exclusively.
Freaking do it. Get out of that other contract and do it. He needs to make, honestly, he needs to make them fire him. I mean, I know it's a contract. He's not working for them, but he needs to make them quit. So he
I
can get out
disavow
of
that,
it.
Ben Wild. I disavow that.
He needs to get them to let him go so he can keep their money and also get Rumble's money.
Yeah. You're looking for it, aren't you? I have to disavow that one. So
I have a couple of chainsaws in the basement, just saying.
um, I mean, and like you said, once the apology is there, they're indicating that they're not going to stop. That's one of the big problems. Now that they know they can get, like Spotify. Now Spotify has to put the warnings out there.
Yeah.
And even the owner of Spotify came out and said, "Oh, well, I'm going to defend him, but we're going to do this and this and this and this and this."
And like Spartan is saying in the chat right now, Joe Biden used the N-word. He's not apologizing for that shit.
He might just be saying, "Come on, man."
Come on, man. He doesn't remember saying it, so it doesn't count. Like, he doesn't remember what happened yesterday,
And you also have to question which Joe Biden. Check the earlobes.
I think we're on I just combined Joy Behar and Joe Biden. I think we're on Biden number 4 right now. Biden 4. Although I think the Jill was leading out Biden number 3 to come out to pasture. And now we got Biden 4.
Does number 5, does he dance the mambo?
Probably not. Probably not. He'd probably break a hip.
So, and I mean, with that, we're getting to a point, too, where, people are starting to realize where the problem is. When Marianne Williamson is telling you that you're going too far, you're probably going too far. Reading a tweet from Marianne Williamson off of this here. I'm triple vaxxed, but, and, everything comes before the but doesn't count. I'm triple vaxxed, but unless they're standing for hate or calling for violence, banning someone's podcast is too much like burning a book to me. Rogan should talk on his podcast about whatever he damn well pleases.
Agreed. I wish I would have seen that when it came out. I would have retweeted that shit. It's rare that I find people who are not like-minded as with me that I can retweet.
Yeah. That was a little bit older because that was from January 30th. Hey, look, there's Shu right there replying on it. Guys, should I ask Shu out?
No. God, no. What is wrong with you? Why do you keep doing this shit? I can't. Oh. Absolutely not. No. Stop it.
One of the things that came out of this, though, I actually do have to pull an L for my life here because I didn't think they were going to go to this point. And I did listen to, when I was on Spotify, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Sometimes Young. Well, David and Steven got into it. Got into the act at this point. They have fallen. They have given away everything that they called for on free speech from Fox Business. David Crosby and Steven Stills request Spotify pull music from the platform.
Goodbye. Nobody cares. See you later.
I like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, but I can find them on YouTube if I really want to listen to them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, nobody cares if they're on Spotify. This one place.
That's fair.
Like,
that is
Joe
fair.
Rogan is only on Spotify because he's got a contract to only be on Spotify. You can find clips and stuff, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. But the people who are fans of Crosby, Stills, and Nash have records that they play of their music, or probably like 8 tracks. You know what I mean? Like, they're good. They've got the music that they want, and they don't need to find it on Spotify. I mean, I'm sure that some of their music, like their popular songs, are in people's playlists that are younger here and there, like some of the good songs or whatever. But people who are fans of theirs, who like all of their music, can find it elsewhere.
Well, that's what we have for this. But there's been something that's really kind of been bothering me throughout the week here, and it's the timing of this. Because I don't know if this is because I don't know if this is because of the Rogan thing and because they want to go back and yell cancel culture at the right. But Whoopi Goldberg got into it, and she said some stuff. I actually found clips of both of the things that she said that she's being yelled at.
She said nothing wrong. Whoopi said nothing wrong.
Well, we'll decide off of this, but I do believe there is an extent of what was said about this and the reaction to this that was made to get a bunch of conservatives riled up and call for her to be canceled, so that our friends to the left can go back and see, Republicans are the real cancel culture people.
Well, and people like Ben Shapiro took the bait. What is wrong with you, Ben?
I didn't hear what Ben had to say about that.
I don't remember exactly, but I remember that he said something about it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me because wearing the yarmulke and coming out there and, every time you walk into a room with Ben Shapiro, you can hear the tones of the Hava Nagila coming up behind him.
I want to say he was on like Fox or Fox News. I think he was talking to Jesse Waters or something. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something. And I was thinking at the time when I was seeing this, like, why are you taking the bait? This is what they want. They put the line out there and you just bit right onto it. They're reeling you in.
Yeah. But I mean, Ben makes being Jewish his personality.
I mean, and it is for some people. I have a friend that is very devout, religious Jewish, and that's fine. I have no problem with people being religious.
Well, let's listen to what Whoopi had to say first, and then we'll go on and see what she said over on Colbert later on.
Yeah.
Oops, I need to switch my window here.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
No, it's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it's about.
But it's about white supremacy. It's about
but it's not about
ideal race.
But these are two white groups of people.
Well, they also have to black people
see them as white people.
But you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, everybody eats each other. So if you're uncomfortable, if you hear about Mouse, should you be worried? Should your child say, oh my God,
And at that moment, every college professor in the country looked at their lesson plan, realized that they've been telling their college students that Nazis were only right-wing because of the racism, and they said, fuck.
Now, I think that Whoopi said nothing wrong. Also, in the context that she's saying this, they're having a discussion about it. If you can't have a discussion about things, you never get anywhere. So right. I also believe that if she was white, she'd be off that show. She wouldn't have a 2-week suspension.
Yeah, that I can see. That is definitely fair. Mm-hmm. She actually apologized for this on The View the next morning, but she went on to, she had gone on Colbert's show the night before, pre-recorded before she made the apology, and the show aired. I don't know where Colbert is even on, but whatever network that he's on didn't look at this and say, shit, we gotta pull this, we gotta pull this, we gotta pull this. So let's listen to what they had to say when it was, when she had to come back and double down. If I can find, there we go. Somehow my scene got moved, and I don't know how. So I'll fix that while we're listening to more Whoopi Goldberg.
Hurt that I have caused. However, on Colbert, Goldberg seemed to go deeper into her original statements.
When you talk about being a racist, I was saying you can't call this racism. This was evil. Mm-hmm. This wasn't based on the skin.
She continued, my point is they had to do the work.
If the Klan is coming down the street and I'm standing with a Jewish friend and neither one, well, I'm going to run.
She continued, but if my friend decides not to run,
she's not going to run. I'm sorry.
She would make it about 2 steps, and then it would be like just a mud ball rolling down the road.
All right. Subscribe to the backup channel.
No, I'm just. I was going to say snowball, but that didn't make sense. Here's my thing. I can see both sides, but I just want to say that they're having a discussion about it. So these are things that should have been brought up during the discussion about the book Mouse, or I haven't read that book, but Hitler viewed the Jewish people as a race. So it was about race. However, he killed mostly white people. It wasn't just Jews that he killed. He killed Polish people. He killed anybody with any disability. It wasn't about race. In actuality, it wasn't about race. But because of the fact that Hitler saw them as a different race, or saw them as inferior because of their race, that's what makes it about race. But the Nazis weren't killing people because of they weren't looking at people. It's not like the KKK in early America, where you could just see somebody's black and kill them, like Whoopi was saying. You would have to do that's why they had the little star on their arm and all of that stuff, you know.
So one of the things that has been brought up and discussed repeatedly on this particular instance is the fact that Goldberg was suspended from The View for 2 weeks, while other Disney stars like Gina Carano were outright fired for this kind of language.
Yeah.
Or what's perceived as this kind of language. I don't think what Carano said had anything to do with what Whoopi said. In fact, I would believe that if you were to compare the two, and I don't think either, like you said, you don't believe that what Whoopi said is wrong, but in terms of social credit, I think what Whoopi said probably might have been worse. Think like a leftoid for a second.
Well, you have to think about who. I really shouldn't. We should move on, because I'm going to say some stuff that's going to right now.
All right.
We could talk about it after, but I'm just saying, who's making the calls?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, that's what I have for this right now. And it's just, the thing that got me was the timing. Because, again, we're sitting here, now the left is trying to cancel Rogan. And it just almost seems like this was set up to try to find a way to get right-wingers to cancel somebody on the left.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that they can come out and say, oh, they're the real cancel culture people.
And people fell for it.
Let's talk about the trucker thing. So,
trucker, please.
Trucker, please. So the trucker movement has moved in at this point. They've come to Ottawa. It is in full force. They were just kind of arriving when we were talking about this last week, but yeah, they're in Ottawa. They are in full force, and there's a lot of stuff going on there, and there's a lot of stuff that I don't think is actually happening. So one of the big things, the big story that came out almost immediately, and this was breaking pretty much while we were on air, was there was an incident where the truckers were coming in, and apparently they were allegedly demanding soup from a soup kitchen. They were demanding free food from the soup kitchen. And in the instance that immediately followed that, a homeless man walked up, apparently tried to get into one of the trucks, and he was shoved. This is all allegedly, because
I was going to ask,
surprise,
video?
There's no video, and there's no police report to it.
Didn't happen. This didn't happen. With how many cameras, and a lot of those truck drivers, probably most of them, have dash cams where they're just recording everything all the time.
Yeah.
This didn't happen. This is made up. It's fake news. It just absolutely didn't happen.
Well, I think that's a big part of what we are seeing with this too. Is that they're trying to do the same thing with the January 6th people, where there's hours upon hours upon hours of more video of what happened on January 6th, but nobody's ever seen it because it's either been seized by the FBI on the form of an iPhone and a computer.
Several computers
that may belong to somebody that we
phones.
know. Yeah.
Hopefully people will get their stuff back soon. Nobody in particular, just people.
So, and I mean, there are hours of video that we've never seen because they don't want it to get back out. And like you said, there's dash cam everywhere. So if this didn't get caught on video somewhere, it didn't happen.
It didn't. Yeah, absolutely. And in Canada, they have also they got that police state going on where there's cameras just on the streets monitoring people. So if there's no video footage of it happening, I refuse to believe that it happened. I kind of guarantee that it didn't.
That's an interesting take, but I kind of enjoy that. Trudeau actually got back into the news off of this because, and this is again, breaking while we were live last week. You remember how he said that he had tested negative, but he'd been in close contact and he had to go back in quarantine for 5 days?
Yeah.
From January 31st. This morning, I tested positive for COVID-19. I'm feeling fine and I'll continue to work remotely this week while following public health guidelines. Everyone please get vaccinated and get boosted,
Yeah, I made him a little get well meme that I posted under his tweet there.
There it is, and it's the second one. It popped up there too. It did.
Amazing.
Hold on, get well, honk honk.
Yep. I just wish him the best. That's all. Hope he doesn't,
Well, I mean, and the story keeps changing too, because first it's, close contact, he's got a quarantine, even though he's vaccinated, and Canadian Health Services, government officials say you don't have to quarantine if you're vaccinated and test negative, to all of a sudden, now he's tested positive.
I really believe it's made up, and I think that if it is made up, whether it's made up or not, whether he's got the COVID or not, I think he should have lied about it because he's just proven their point. I think I said this to you last week. I said it to somebody, but
it was me.
Their whole point is that these vaccines don't work. We shouldn't be forced to get something that doesn't work. And then he goes and proves their point by being triple jabbed and still getting the stupid virus. Why would he let people know that? Ridiculous. Ridiculous, as my husband said.
All right. This, by the way, this is the protest that everybody's worried about becoming violence. Let's have a listen to that and watch.
Looks horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I feel as scared to be down there as I would have in Minneapolis in 2020.
Yeah.
Or Kenosha.
Yeah.
You can hear the horn coming up in the background. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they have going on out in the streets.
It looks fun.
Yeah, it does.
If it was that so cold, I might join that party. But I'm not going to stand out in the cold. I don't care what cause it's for. Don't care. Not doing it.
Well, you could always bundle up like this guy.
Get out of my fucking city! But the thing is, get out of my fucking city! Hey, fuck you!
Beat at him. That's a freak.
I lost my mind because I haven't slept in 5 fucking days! It has to fucking stop.
The honking will continue until freedom improves. Simple as that. Simple as that.
Fuck you.
Fuck me? Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Join us.
person seems mentally well.
He's not well at all. He
Well, he
needs
hasn't
some
slept in 5 days.
Xanax.
I'll give him that. Given the sort of right-wing perception of our show, I shouldn't feel for this guy. I feel for this guy.
I don't.
He didn't ask for this.
Why? Why do you
He
feel
didn't
for
ask
this
for this.
guy?
He just wants to go to bed and go to work. I feel a little bit for this guy. But I also remember the standards that the left wing, which includes the government of Ottawa, had set for protests during the St. George riots, and that is that protests are not supposed to be comfortable.
They're not supposed to be comfortable, and he's just should be thanking his lucky stars that his building that he lives in is not being burned down.
Yeah.
Because that's the precedent that was set. Burn the shit down. That's their precedent.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like this is a guy who wants to end the protests or anything like that, because he's not wearing a mask on his face. Like you would think that would be if somebody else was just coming back out, unless he just threw the North Face on in a hurry. But, I mean, he's got, like, an actual hat that's bundled up for a mask, but he's not, like, it's not covering his nose and mouth.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing this is just a guy that wants to go to work.
It could be, but he also could, I don't know. I don't feel bad for him. I don't feel bad for anybody who's throwing a temper tantrum in the middle of the street.
That's
fair. No matter what it's about. I just don't feel bad. He's a grown-ass man.
One of the big developments No, I want to do this one first. Before we do the big development with GoFundMe, I wanted to grab this one first because out west, out in Alberta, truckers allegedly blocked a border crossing. And the RCMP told them they had to get their trucks out of there, otherwise they were going to get towed. So this tweet came out to us from Definitely Not Advice. That says, it's the dual tweet one. The first tweet says, disclose.tv. Just in, police are moving in, ready to arrest truck drivers and seize equipment if they continue to block the highway at the U.S.-Canada border crossing in Alberta per local media. And shortly thereafter, Western Standard says, Alberta towing companies reject requests to supply trucks to RCMP.
Good for them. Absolutely.
Wah, wah.
Yeah. Well, and they need to have specialized kind of tow trucks to tow those big rigs as well. So what are they going to do? They can't do anything.
And a specialized driver too. It takes a special license to drive a semi-tow truck beyond your regular CDL.
Really? I did not know that. I know there was 2 different kinds of CDLs. I didn't know there was anything more than that.
Well, you're not getting a different license. You're actually getting a different endorsement on your license to be able to tow extra long. Gotcha, because on your normal CDL, you can only go pretty much a sleeper and a 53-foot trailer. So be able to tow the extra long length, you have to have an endorsement on it for oversized load. I did look into that because I didn't know if that was the case when I first reported on this.
So that's what it is in Canada too?
I don't know if that is in Canada. I know that's what it is here.
Yeah.
I know enough people that tow that way, so.
Probably pretty similar in Canada, I would think.
Let's talk about the GoFundMe, because that was the fairly major story of the week. Disclose.tv reporting, just in, GoFundMe has deleted Canada's Freedom Convoy fundraiser for violating its terms, stating the peaceful demonstration has become an occupation. And we can go back and look at the dancing again if we want to talk about.
So it was Chaz, whatever they called it.
We don't talk about that here because that was totally peaceful. Nobody died for that except for those little kids that are of a color of skin that they don't talk about.
Yeah.
But that's not the first tweet. Actually, Disclose.tv deleted their tweet and put out the one that we just read here. This one was screenshotted from Ricky Lynn, or somebody screenshotted Ricky Lynn and put it up over on Instagram. Ricky Lynn tweets out, if you donated, your money was stolen, because the original tweet said, just in, GoFundMe has deleted Canada's Freedom Convoy fundraiser for violating its terms, stating the peaceful demonstration has become an occupation now, which that's what it was before, except for the first time it said $9 million in funds to be sent to credible charities.
I'm glad that people are now able to get their money back.
Mm-hmm.
But if that would have gone through the way they were talking about it going through, there would have been lawsuits up the ass. Like every single state that people who donated were in would have a lawsuit against GoFundMe. So, I mean, hopefully they do the right thing.
Well, and the weird thing with that too is, like, I want to know who the credible charities were, because it sounds like it was going to be Planned Parenthood and Black Lives Matter.
Exactly. Yeah, you know who they are. You know who they're going to give the money to.
Well, I want to see the documentation of it at least.
Yeah, it's going to go to the Joe Biden re-election fund, the Justin Trudeau re-election fund.
So, I mean, with that being put up in mind, now this was a slight misreporting by Disclose.tv, which I think is why they pulled it down the first time. When this first came out, which this is not the way that GoFundMe does anything up until this protest, by the way, and I want to point that out because I donated to the Abuela fundraiser. I gave a $10 bill to Matt Walsh's fundraiser for AOC's grandmother.
Oh, okay.
And I got it back without having to request it. It just showed back up in my account when when GoFundMe shut it down.
I don't know anything about this one.
It was last year when AOC was complaining about the fact that there hadn't been any aid going out to Puerto Rico after the hurricane, and that her abuela still had roof damage and her roof was still leaking. Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire set up a GoFundMe to go send money down to AOC's abuela so that she could get her roof fixed.
Gotcha.
And AOC shut it down.
Why didn't she fix her grandma's roof?
With Tesla money.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, she's got a Tesla, so, you know.
Yeah.
And she got it shut down for harassment, because that's what she called it, was harassment. She got it shut down for harassment.
Raising money for an old lady's roof is harassment now?
Apparently.
Crazy.
But, yeah, and again, when I got my $10 back from it, I didn't have to request it. It just showed back up in my bank account.
I think I hope that's what they're planning on doing with this.
That is what they're planning, because, well, that's their standard. I don't know why the request had to be in this particular fundraiser. Well, I know
why.
I don't know why they initially had it that, oh, yeah, I guess I do, don't I?
Yeah, you do.
But I mean, it looked partially too, like I know DeSantis got into it and Abbott got into it as well. Because like you said, if this had gone through, this would have been a major theft from U.S. citizens first and foremost. But Merrick Garland's not going to go back and investigate that shit.
And not just U.S. either. Probably people from around the world, the globe, were donating to this.
Yeah. But yes, like Sewell said, they are backtracking on that and they're doing the automatic refunds like they have done for every other shutdown fundraiser they have ever done in the history of GoFundMe.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Let's talk about the U.S. for just a second, because it does appear that this is coming to our country. Well, we can talk about the removal of the group here. The New York Post reporting, Facebook removes Freedom Convoy page of truckers against vax mandate because, and as I said, they are in the planning stages of doing the same thing, driving from California to Washington, D.C. Reading briefly here, a Facebook page organizing a protest by U.S. truckers against vaccine mandates has been removed by the social media giant, riling long haulers, blasting censorship at its finest, according to a report. The Freedom Convoy of truckers, following the lead of their Canadian counterparts, plan to drive from California to D.C. in opposition of vaccine rules nationwide. And the reasoning, the group's Convoy to D.C. 2022 page on Facebook, however, was removed Wednesday for violating policies around QAnon.
Policies around QAnon? This doesn't have anything to do with QAnon? That doesn't make sense. They could have figured something else out to shut them down for.
Well, that's what Meta threw it up there, for policies against QAnon.
Meta. I forgot they're Meta now. So Meta.
Go ahead.
They're not going to let any right-wing groups organize on Facebook. It's just, we're going to have to do it somewhere else.
And I don't know why these people, well, I kind of have an idea why they were trying to do it on Facebook, because they don't know anything else.
Get
And I
on
mean,
Gab.
a lot of the truckers don't know about that, though, or they've been told by the mainstream media that it's a Nazi site.
Everyone needs to get on Gab. That's it.
I'm
I don't
on
know what
Gab, but
to
I never
say.
use
Yeah.
it.
I'm on Gab too, but at least you have your account. You have
Mhm.
you have it set up so when shit hits the fan and they shut all of our speech down, which is going to happen. It's coming. We'll have somewhere to go.
Right.
And eventually
So,
we're just going to have to meet around the campfire in my backyard because all of the internet's going to be shut down. They're going to kick us off the internet.
well, I mean, and we'll continue to see where that goes, but it's just and I was crunching some numbers off of this here. Now, I don't know that they'll get every owner operator on board with this. I know that they will not get every company driver on board. In fact, I believe that there would be almost no company drivers on board with this.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they don't want to do it, just because as soon as they drive that truck that direction, outside of what their electronic logs are telling they're supposed to be doing, the phone call gets made and hey, that truck gets reported stolen.
Yeah, that has to be mostly owner operators for sure,
Mm-hmm.
unless you work for a really based company.
Well, yeah, there's that aspect of it too. But just going in the owner operators aspect, I mean, even if not all of them get on board,
Mm-hmm.
there are 350,000 owner operators registered in the United States. They actually, my live chat this morning did the research for me on that.
They're good
Even if
people over
10%
there.
of them, even if 10% of them got in on this, have you ever been to DC? Do you have any idea how much 10% of the owner operators in the country parked across roads in DC would shut down anything?
It would shut it down for sure. I mean, it's a grid pattern streets over there too, so they could strategically shut shit down.
Mm-hmm. Does that be 35,000 trucks? So yeah, even if 10% got onto there, and then another aspect that was brought up on top of that, it would be a sick out, for the drivers that can't.
Yeah.
Because they're company drivers. If they just call in and say, boss, I feel like shit, I can't do anything. Like 15% of truckers across the country just got sick on the same 2 days.
Yeah.
Weird.
Everyone needs to start growing their own food tomorrow. Because when this happens, you're going to be hungry.
Yeah. And I've got some going already. I've obviously not got the space to make a lot of food, but I've got some going already.
Yeah, the only thing I have going right now is marigolds, which is not going to help me out very much.
You'd be surprised. You can make some pretty awesome tea off of that.
Yeah, I'm still going to be hungry.
All right. We have got to do some live chat, and then we've got to go check in with some of the other stuff that we have here.
All right.
Let me see if I can find where you were on the timestamp, or where I was on the timestamp, so you can pick up from us. Stephen Ignoramus says, I'm in rare form tonight was the last one I did, and that was at 1817 or 1917.
And he says that low key, Jed's lost some weight, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it too.
I don't understand that because I feel like I've gained weight, especially since I broke a zipper right before I went live.
Maybe just buy new pants. Let's see. Randy says, few times that question's been asked, but I'm going to have to circle back because I'm a circle back girl. Oh. He was wanting me to sing that. That ain't happening. Not everybody can sing. Mark my words. There's there are 3 words with magical powers in the United States: Hitler, Nazi, and that other word. Grant, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. I can't read as it is. Stop trying to mess with me. Grant's putting tongue twisters in the chat just to fuck with me. Seawall says Joe is cucked. I hope he loses his audience so he can be an example to future generations of what never to do. Never apologize. Spartan says apologizing is a big mistake. If blacks can can say it 4,400 times. I can't do math either. 400 times in a rap song. We should all be able to say it. I agree. Steven says, I can't believe people are getting on this dude's back after this apology. That's one of the most disgraceful videos I've ever seen. There's a lot of, let's see. Grant says white people invented the N-word. Black people stole it. Think about that. The more you know. Spartan says exactly. Nobody cared about the N-word till they want to shut him up over COVID and truckers. Randy says, I can't believe anyone would have Joe's back after this, because even as apologies go, he did nothing. He did nothing. He did the thing where you say you're sorry, but then try to justify it. Randy said she could have got the white one. I don't know what we're talking about. Oh, I think they're talking about my microphone. You don't need to read that. Grant says Joy Blackface Behar, mad Joe Rogan used the N-word. Talk about how bad the N-word is. I forgot that Joy Behar did blackface.
That's right. That's right.
I forgot about that.
She just wanted to honor Diana Ross, though.
She wants to cancel Joe Rogan. We're not going to read Fed posts, Ben. Sorry. Let's some of the stuff I'm not going to read because I don't want us taken off of YouTube. Steven says no one should be removed or fired for saying the N-word. I agree. They should be given a raise. Not sure I agree with that, but not fired. Some wood chipper talk going on in the chat. Ron said Rogan never used any word to speak ill of others. The fact that they think that he should be able, the fact that they think they should be able to tell us what to say is bullshit. Randy said, so the clones demented, or is the original one that is messed up?
The Biden clones, are they all demented, or is it just the original one?
I'm so blonde. We just talked about that like 10 minutes ago. I'm like, what is he talking about? I don't know what's going on.
Grant asked, in regards to Rogan and Spotify, did you see that Rumble offer to Rogan? What do you think about the $100 million offer for him to jump ship to Rumble? I think he's going to lose money off of that, because I think that's paid out over 4 years, and if I remember correctly, a Spotify deal is $100 million a year for it.
Yeah.
Grant says,
do you want to continue?
Yeah. Do you really expect the small hat man to not get mad about the statement about Jews? No. I knew that he was, and like you said, he came on the trap.
Mm-hmm.
Randy says, was it Whoopi or Behar that defended Polanski? It wasn't rape. That should have got someone else. That was Behar. Ben Wild says that Gina Carano is much hotter than Whoopi, and I agree. I very much enjoy following Gina Carano's Instagram. Very much, in fact. Ben Wild says that you can have my copy of Mouse if you want it. Randy says that's proof the Klan is no longer relevant, because Whoopi hasn't run in years. And Spartan says if Whoopi was white, they would call her a Holocaust denier and cancel her from every platform. Let's see. Randy says, I'm sure the trucker didn't want to press charges against a crazy homeless man, seeing how the homeless guy was a criminal. Yeah, I got that one this morning. I didn't get it on the stack today. But yeah, there was a man charged in Winnipeg for a car attack on the Convoy protest as a radical far-left Antifa member. And he didn't get hit with hate charge crimes. Kind of like Darrell Brooks. Mr. Zed says earplugs. Yeah, that's one of the things. Or noise-canceling headphones. That would help somewhat here. Apparently Viva Fry did some great Man on the Street streams to get more coverage. He even got some detractors to talk to him. I also learned he's only 5'5".
He did have some good streams. I did watch a little bit of that the last few days.
Yeah. Grant says the tow truckers that can haul semi-trucks are truckers. It's funny they didn't think about that. Also, it's not worth pissing off your main clientele for a one-time job. Ron says GoFundMe is disparaging the people who donated, trying to associate them with criminal activity, but it's a lie. Spartan says move to Gab. Mr. Zed says if the drivers that are not owner-operators hooked up with owner-operators, everything shuts down. And a sick out on top of that would be epic stoppages, which means that your gallon of milk would become $17.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is back. What did I miss? And we will circle back to the rest of that here. I want to take a little bit of time. I know that I want to, for the majority of the rest of the time that we have, I want to talk about the Syria strike, because that disappeared completely out of the news. Mm-hmm. But I want to take just a second and talk about what happened over at CNN. So this past week, abruptly, Jeff Zucker, the president of CNN, resigned. Now, his reasoning, of course, was the fact that he was in a consensual relationship with the vice president of marketing, Alison Gollust. They had a consensual relationship, but he, at the time of the Chris Cuomo scandals and the Andrew Cuomo scandals and all the other scandals, did not disclose this properly, according to reports off of this. Zucker gave a statement saying that he was stepping down for a non-properly disclosed relationship with an unnamed woman, but CNN themselves came out and said that the relationship was with Gollust, his key lieutenant for the last 2 decades. Gollust is remaining at CNN, and I do believe that she is shortlisted to become the new president of CNN.
Yeah, it's interesting the timing of that, huh?
Yeah. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if she's going to be, but I believe she is on the short list to do this right now. So something's bothered me about this for a while because, and it's been brought up on numerous occasions, that everybody knew about Zucker and Gollust. It was in Katie Couric's book.
Really? I didn't know that. I haven't read Katie Couric's book. Can you believe it?
I was going to say, I don't know why that would be a definitive source because nobody's read Katie Couric's book, but I mean, everybody knew about this. So I do feel like something else was going on with this. But as, you know, I've been listening, there's not been a lot of mainstream coverage of this, if you can believe it.
No, it's been crickets. Tumbleweed rolling by. Nobody cares. People care. They're just trying to hide it.
But some of the independent coverage I've pointed, and I've looked this back up, but I mean, there are other staffing and personnel problems with this because Gollust used to work for Andy Cuomo.
Mm-hmm.
That changes a few things.
It's like one of those that meme where they just keep having sex scandal after sex scandal after sex scandal. Is there anybody that works for CNN that's not having a sex scandal?
Well, that's what I said too, and I actually said the exact same thing about Michael Fanone when they decided to bring him in as a consultant. I said, so the new president that comes in, will the new president, will CNN provide that person a 15-year-old hooker, or will he have to provide his own?
seems like they're provided for because it happens way too much for it not to be the case.
But and the other side, the other aspect of this, and it's come out off of this, with Gallus having worked in Cuomo's office, a lot of this, and a lot of people are pointing out, this may seem to have to do with the Chris Cuomo firing, because on his last day, Cuomo swore up and down that he was going to end Zucker's career. So, undisclosed relationship, which everybody knew about, but undisclosed relationship with somebody who worked in Andy's office.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with touchy-feely Andy, there might have been some more stuff. There's something else going on here. What do you think, by the way?
I think that they're all a bunch of degenerates and they're self-imploding. It's like they can't help themselves. Like, it's just one thing after another with this company. And their ratings are so far in the toilet that I can't see them being around for another 20 years. Maybe even 10, you know?
Yeah, that I could see.
Like between the sex scandals and nobody watching them?
Well, one of the things that's been brought up with this too, and who is it? Somebody, yeah, the largest owner right now, CNN, is a major mega Trump donor. So one of my thoughts behind this is, I mean, what have we seen for the last few years, even back into the Barack and even back into some of the W era stuff? Is the news, especially the cable news, has become less of news and more of a reality show.
It is. There's not news anymore. It's all punditry and it's all opinion pieces. There's no news. Like if something's going on, I go to Twitter to find out what's going on, not CNN.
I use CNN as a source for a little while. Every once in a while, at least.
Yeah. I've been to that CNN center in Atlanta. It's interesting, but I mean, I think that it's more of a tourist attraction to see how the news is made instead of like, ooh, CNN. Nobody cares about CNN.
When you say how the news is made, are you talking about fabricated or?
Well, that's not what they're trying to portray there, but yeah, it's very true.
Somebody had to say
there's a dartboard and they just like have all these made up stories and they throw a dart. Like, I've been there. That's exactly what it is.
I'm not surprised. So I do have to wonder. This is one that I'm going to watch for a little while too, just to see what happens with that, to see if something blows up off of this, because I mean, this has been, as somebody who's trying to make a dent into the mainstream media, this has been one of the more fascinating stories I've seen, because I want to see where the weakness is.
I don't think anything's going to happen with it, and I'll tell you why. Because it was consensual and neither of them were married.
But, I mean, why the resignation at that point? Because it was consensual and neither of them were married. That's what I want to know. What's lying underneath the surface? It's
because they didn't fill out the disclosure forms. And there's other people moving the pieces. Probably. He didn't resign because he wanted to resign. He resigned because somebody told him, you're going to resign, or this really bad dirt that we have on you is going to come out.
Well, we'll see what happens with that. I want to talk about this thing from Syria, because this has kind of fascinated me. So we're going to start reading from NBC4 WYFF. Doesn't tell me where they're out of, but the article itself came from the Associated Press to them. Let me bring this up here for you guys. A leader of ISIS killed during U.S. counterterrorism raid in Syria. The leader of a violent Islamic State group was killed, blowing himself and members of his family up during an overnight raid carried out by U.S. Special Operations Forces in northwestern Syria, and President Joe Biden said on Thursday. The raid targeted Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi, that's a lot of name, who took over as the head of the militant group on October 31st, 2019, just days after Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died during the U.S. raid in the same area. Biden said al-Qurayshi died as al-Baghdadi did by exploding a bomb that killed himself and members of his family, including women and children, as U.S. forces approached. The operation came as Islamic State has been trying for a resurgence with a series of attacks in the region, including an assault late last month to seize a prison in northeastern Syria, holding at least 3,000 IS detainees, the boldest operation in years. Thanks to the bravery of our troops, this horrible leader is no more, Biden said. He said al-Qurashi had been responsible for the prison strike, as well as genocide against the Yazidi people in Iraq in 2014. U.S. Special Forces landed helicopters and attacked a house in a rebel-held corner of Syria, clashing for 2 hours with gunmen. Witnesses said residents described continuous gunfire and explosions that jolted the town of Atma near the Turkish border, an area dotted with camps for internally displaced people from Syria's civil war. There's a lot of stuff moving here, and this story disappeared like that. Shut up, Biden. Nobody likes you. What do you have to say off of this?
I think there's got to be a reason why they're sweeping this under the rug, but I just don't know what it is yet. Like, there's
this was huge news on Thursday morning too. Like, this was every fucking headline on Thursday morning.
But then by Thursday afternoon, it was gone. It was just gone. It's crazy. They wanted to talk about the truckers more,
which is weird because they never want to talk about the truckers.
Exactly.
Now there have been. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's something going on, I think, where the media started to report it, and then they got a call from Washington D.C. or somebody overseas and said, we need to keep this hush hush, and like a good doggy, they followed their orders. If I had to guess, something like that is definitely going on here.
Well, and I mean, the interesting thing for me when I look at something like this especially was the reaction, because, and a lot of people pointed out that this was more akin to what happened with al-Baghdadi than Soleimani. But even still, when we looked at Soleimani, the president was a criminal. And I even saw some of this here. Trump was a criminal. He had no business to come out and do this. We weren't in a war with Iraq. He wasn't even in Iraq. He couldn't do this. And there was some similar talk around al-Baghdadi, although lesser of it. But with this, I mean, when it did come out, before they swept it back under the rug, Biden was praised as a hero for this.
The double standards, crazy.
Mm-hmm. With people saying that we need to go and do stuff like this because it keeps the fighting over there. Mm-hmm. Right out of the Bush playbook.
I mean, it's not wrong, but just the double standard where when Trump bombed, an airfield or something, nobody died, Yeah. Meanwhile, there's whole families just wiped off the face of the earth when Biden's in charge, albeit in Afghanistan, but still.
I have to wonder if this guy wound up being a U.S. contractor, like the guy that they hit in a car after the Afghanistan botch.
It wouldn't surprise me. Really, nothing would surprise me at this point,
But I mean, this was top headline news for 4 hours, and then it was gone.
Yeah. What do you think is going on? Like a similar thing?
No, I actually think they found out that it was illegal for them to be in that zone at the time because sovereign territory in a country that we're not at war with. Because that was one of the first things that was pointed out to me was, well, when Trump did it with Soleimani, he was illegally entering a country. And then almost the first thing that I saw was Syria coming out and saying, you had no business being in our country. Why the hell did you carry out an operation here?
Possibly. Yeah, I think you're probably right.
It sounds to me like there's a major diplomatic crisis coming right now.
It sounds like we're both right. It sounds like what you said happened. And then Washington's like, oh, shit, we got to hush this. And then Washington, D.C. called all of their little puppies in the mainstream media, and it disappeared.
Well, and I wrote the document in the way that I wrote it because this was probably about 2 hours before we got the Operation Moonshot speech. Joe Biden came out also this week and promised that he's going to relaunch Cancer Moonshot initiative aimed at halving the rate of cancer by 2047. I want to remind you, everybody, that in 2047, if he does manage to live this long, Joe Biden will be 104 years old.
He's not going to make it till next year. What are you talking about?
So this is something that seems very unlikely that he would ever be able to see the fruits of his labor off of.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Operation Moonshot appears that this is going to be an operation to raise money for cancer research with the effort to either cure cancer or cut the rates of death of cancer in half by 2047, as I said. So this seems to be like a big money laundering thing, but...
I was trying to look up the name of the doctor, but there was a doctor in the 1980s that had incredible, what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Not cancer cure, but when people go remission, had an incredible remission rate for treatments that he was doing. And he brought it was in Texas. I wish I could remember the dude's name. The Texas legislator shut him down and said it's not approved. You can't do this treatment. So I think that cancer has already been cured, but they're shutting it down because of the pharmaceutical companies are not going to make any money if people don't need drugs. If you cure the shit, they don't need the drugs anymore. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't know if I am or not. However, it's really freaking fishy that now all of a sudden Joe Biden is like, oh, we're going to find a cure for cancer. We've already had that. They're just going to bring it back out. It really wouldn't surprise me if whatever this regimen or whatever this treatment is that doctor was doing in the 80s is what ends up being the fruit of this Operation Moonshot.
Well, and I mean, once again, like you hit it right on the head. When it comes to with treatments and everything else like that too. I mean, look at what we're doing. And again, I want to see the invoice that Pfizer sends to the federal government because I want to see exactly how much that vaccine costs coming off of our taxpayer money.
They're never going to tell us. Not to mention all of the tests, all of these free tests. Mm-hmm. I was in the grocery store the other day and they had these freaking masks provided by the government, just bins of the masks, just sitting out. You could just take them. Who's paying for this? We're paying for it.
Well, yeah,
there's no reason for it. The masks don't do shit. People don't wear them correctly, even if they have the masks that do shit. And I've had like 6 or 7 COVID tests since this whole thing started because my employer requires me to have them. And I haven't paid for a single one of them. Who's paying for it?
Well, where I was going with that too was it's the treatments because, you know, you can go and get your vaccine or your state-sponsored monoclonal antibodies or the Pfizer pill. Was it Pfizer that did the pill?
I think Pfizer does everything. If I had to guess, yeah.
That the government's purchasing these at huge money, whereas, and the words that we can't say, fish tank cleaner and horse paste that are readily available by prescription, not by over-the-counter, but by prescription, and they're pennies on the dose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, there's big money to be made off of treating it with big commercial name drugs.
Well, I was cleaning out my medicine cabinet yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I found in there from like 2000, very expired. I haven't cleaned it out in a while. So I was cleaning out expired medicine, and it was a malaria treatment that we had when my husband went overseas that also, when I Googled, what is this? It also works for COVID. And I wish I would have remembered I had that when he had COVID, but we didn't. So whatever.
No,
but it's prescribed by a doctor. Because... It's not fish tank cleaner. It's not horse paste. It's medicine that was prescribed to him from a doctor for malaria.
Uh-huh. Well, that can't be true, though, because nothing works for COVID except for the vaccine. Remember?
Ridiculous.
Speaking of ridiculous, do you want to do 40-round mag or do you want to do cannon first?
You pick. I'm up for either.
Let's do 40-round mag first because Biden had 2 large gaffes on the Second Amendment. So the first one came telling us about a Glock that's a weapon of war. A Glock that's a weapon of war. Let's listen.
It's really a weapon of war. One of the things I was proudest of years ago when I was in the Senate, I was able to get these weapons and the size of magazines outlawed. That got changed. It got overruled, but I don't see any rationale why there should be such a weapon able to be purchased. It doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment rights to deny that opportunity. But anyway, their futures were cut short by a man with a stolen Glock and that 40-round magazine, and it's really a weapon.
40-round magazine in a Glock.
I didn't know that they made 40-round magazines for a Glock. My Glock only has a 30-round magazine. I feel like I'm getting gypped out of 10 rounds. But I did Google it. They do make, I was thinking, is it a drum or something like that? But no, they have 40-round. But a weapon of war, like a Glock is not a weapon of war. Like if he's calling a Glock a weapon of war, every single pistol or handgun or anything is a weapon of war. Like every weapon has been used in a war somewhere, sometime, you know?
And I know, like, special forces, from what I remember from watching Deadliest Warrior, typically, don't they use a Beretta typically? Not a Glock?
I'm not the expert.
That you might have to ask Mr. Zed on that one. But that's what I thought.
He might be in the chat. I know at one point, I'm sure some army somewhere and on the earth has used a Glock as their sidearm, but you just don't think of a Glock as a weapon of war. Like, that's silly.
And even still, like with a 40-round magazine, like if you're coming in here to go back and off and conceal, I mean, I hate to say it, because I know that there are people out there, and there are probably people in the chat that do this before, but, you know, I've got the regular 16-round mag for my Smith, and it's in there and it sits flush with the bottom of the grip. Mm-hmm. When you're throwing a 40 in there, when you're throwing a 40-round mag into that, I mean, it's not concealable at that point because the grip is this freaking long.
Yeah.
And you've probably got 17 other mods to the gun.
Oh, trust me, I know all about how long that magazine is.
So, I mean, this is not an effective Glock anymore for what most people carry a Glock for.
No, absolutely not.
It's probably at this point scoped. It's probably got, I don't know, a heavier action.
I have
probably got a laser.
I have a little knife that I can attach to my Glock and a 30-round. I'm sorry, I lost all that stuff in a terrible boating accident just last week, actually. It was horrible.
I had a cold out on the lake.
Yeah. You know, that's what we have it's capsized and I don't know. Anyway, moving on, cannons.
Yes, cannons. That was the other one that came up. And I'll actually put the video up with this one too, because I forgot to do that. We had the audio, we didn't have the video. But let's listen to the other rationale on the Second Amendment. This was funny.
Making sure that people who are not allowed to have a gun don't get the gun in the first place. And again, for any of the press listening, this doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment right. There's no violation of a Second Amendment right. We talk like there's no amendment that's absolute. When the amendment was passed, it didn't say anybody can own a gun and any kind of gun and any kind of weapon. You couldn't buy a cannon, and when this amendment was passed, and so no reason why you should be able to buy certain assault weapons. But that's another issue.
Couldn't buy a cannon, fact checkers.
You could buy a cannon, as a matter of fact. You could still buy a cannon. Cannons are currently, right now, not against federal law to own.
Not only that, but you could have a warship.
You could have a ship with all sorts of cannons. There's actually, I've seen letters. I forget who they were written by, but there's letters written by our founding fathers to ship owners saying, like, they asked, can we have a cannon? And the founding fathers wrote back and said, yes, you can have a cannon. Have at it. Have fun.
from what my former co-host, the Libertarian, said, that if anything that she says is accurate, they probably wrote back and said, "Why the fuck are you asking us?"
Probably. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you have a muzzle loaded cannon, so the stuff's going in the out hole, you can own that today. It's not against any federal law.
Yeah.
There's state laws obviously in place for some people, but if you live in a place like I live, we can get a cannon tomorrow.
Are you updating your Amazon wish list?
I mean, I'm not sure if they have it on Amazon, but I do know that I'd like to have a couple of hand grenades and RPG, and I think there's a specialty shop somewhere that might be able to get me a cannon.
Well, I mean, the only hand grenade I really want is the one from the third act in Monty Python.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Holy Hand Grenade. The Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
I don't think I've seen that movie since I was 12. I have no idea.
I've seen that movie in the last 3 weeks.
Makes sense. For somebody who doesn't watch movies, you watch an awful lot of movies.
I watch a lot of movies over and over again. I don't watch any new movies. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But I think with the new channel that I'm starting, we're going to correct that a little bit.
You're starting a new channel, huh?
Movie reviews.
Oh, fun.
All right. That's all I got for this, but I promised you that there was going to be a double surprise stupidity.
Yay.
The first one, by the way, I believe you know about, because I was looking at your Twitter feed and you actually referenced it. Well, I looked at that and I'm like, shit. Fuck it, it's still going up.
I told you it's hard to surprise me with stupidity because I see it everywhere. It's all around me all the time.
And this one does come from your neck of the woods, too, by the way. Reading from the Daily Wire, unmasked Stacey Abrams visits Georgia school where kids still have to mask up. This is from Virginia Cruta. Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams took some heat over the weekend after appearing without a mask in a public school where the students are still required to mask up on a daily basis. And the photos were the genius part that came out of this because, I mean, if we look in at Abrams, let me actually get out the tweet and blow up the Twitter off of this one here. There she is, literally, as the politician, the elite. And you took this in a different direction when you were tweeting off this, but there is the politician and the elite without the mask, and all the little subjects, including all the adults in the background, all the little subjects are in uniform with their little faces coming up. This is scary shit.
It's terrifying, and the reason I took it in a different direction is because what we're talking about now it's been said, and a lot of people have said it, and I like to go my own way. So, but the important part, like what I was saying, was in jest and funny or whatever. I was trying to be funny. I'm a girl sometimes, but it is horrifying. This photo, they say a photo speaks 1,000 words. This one really does. When you see these poor children, and if you zoom in and look at the looks on some of their faces, these poor kids are being muzzled, and this fat bitch is just sitting there with a giant smile on her face. It's
a gap in her teeth you could drive a truck through.
It's very sad.
And it is. And as you pointed out too, who in this picture has the most comorbidities?
I'm saying. So what I tweeted is, do you think she was able to get off the ground by herself? I'm going to say no. I feel bad for whatever kids are sitting right near her because she probably fell over and crushed them to death. In my head, she fell over and the wind caught her tooth in such a way that it whistled on the way down, and then the kid just splat.
Subscribe to the backup YouTube channel, everybody. Well,
I have a very active imagination.
So we've got that one. We see Stacey Abrams coming out and being stupid in the middle of this, but we've got more surprise stupidity coming from another regular in this segment, actually. This time coming from AOC Biscuit, reading from The Blaze. Actually, he should continue to make their lives as difficult as possible. AOC wants senators like Sinema to suffer. Reading from the Blaze, Democratic Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of Twitch wants Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer to make life as difficult as possible for lawmakers like Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona. And as the agreement is, I don't do the impression on the night show. Sinema reportedly complained to Schumer last night about the Senate's slow voting process. Could we have some discipline and votes ever? Sinema said to Schumer, according to Bloomberg. You're in charge. Ocasio-Cortez reacted to the comments by declaring that Schumer should seek to make life very hard for senators. The tweet came out as a quote tweet. Zachary C. Cohen tweets out, Senator Kyrsten Sinema confronted Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer on the Senate floor last night about the chamber's slow voting process per Stephen T. Dennis. Could we have some discipline in the votes? Yes, you're in charge. That's what we read earlier. Ocasio-Cortez quote tweets this, saying, actually, he should continue to make their lives as difficult as possible and treat them the way they treat, say, public housing residents or parents who rely on CTC, which I didn't know what that acronym was. When they improve, maybe processes can improve too. And then she goes on to say, cancel vacation, vote on weekends, vote for hours. Vote last minute. Call votes when senators are courting billionaires at fundraisers, which that seemed to be a direct jab at Sinema. They may get apoplectic, but it's nothing compared to the people they're forcing to sleep without heat in winter or losing the right to vote.
I don't even know what to say to that. I'm dumbfounded. This is actually surprise stupidity. You got me. This is so dumb. Why? Okay, so make the senators, make it hard for them to vote, but everybody else, we're just going to mail a ballot directly to their house? Is that what we're going for here? This is insane. She's insane. It's that Venn diagram. Is she dumb? Is she evil? I don't know. It's got to be some of all of it, right?
It very well could be off of this one here, because, I mean, she continues to say this kind of thing. And I noticed she's only calling for that for the Senate, too, by the way. She's not calling for it for the House, where she works.
Yeah, exactly. No, she wants to vote from sitting at home in her bunny slippers.
With her Instant Pot, wondering what a garbage disposal is.
I was just going to bring up the garbage disposal. Oh, my God. I forgot about that until just now. So funny. So hilarious. She's in charge of the country. She didn't know what a garbage disposal was. So we have that part of the Venn diagram. Stupid, definitely stupid. Evil, absolutely. I mean, she knew when she was down there at that fence in that white outfit taking pictures of fucking nothing. She knew nothing was going on. That's evil. Manipulative, yes, check that box for sure. She's all of the above.
Who are they forcing to sleep without heat, too, by the way? I was trying to figure that one out.
Nobody's none of this. What was that acronym you said that I didn't know what it was?
CTC. Parents who rely on CTC.
I guess what it is? No, tell me what it is. Is it like public housing or something like that? Or some sort of welfare?
Child tax credit, that's what it is.
Child tax credit. What is her point with that? That doesn't make sense in that context. Like they get a child tax credit. So we're like,
no, remember,
it's not difficult.
The monthly expired though, remember, because they didn't pass the Build Back Bullshit bill?
Yeah, but there's still like people still get a cut on their taxes the more kids they have. So just because that one expired doesn't mean they get nothing. This whole thing's ridiculous. Seriously.
Well, I'm glad that meme and that word got some mileage today. That's for sure.
It's not going away. It's staying forever. This is part of the show now. You did this.
Well, I did this. Let's see what they did in the live chat.
All
right. Left off at 20:07 for you. Mr. Zed said some light stuttering. Was about where we were at.
20:07. Grant says, who's the next CNN anchor out at CNN? Don Lemon is in the lead with a court case Forgot about that one too. A court case for sexual misconduct. Jeez Louise. Maybe someone else will surprise us. Anderson Cooper. Probably Anderson Cooper, Jim Acosta, Brian Stelter. I'm going to guess if I had to put money on who's the next one, I'm going to say Anderson Cooper because he is a straight up degenerate.
I've seen you're going to put money on it because he can get it by putting money onto it.
Oh.
Because he's got all kinds of money. He's got more money than fucking God.
I've seen some of the New Year's specials. He's definitely a degenerate. I give it a year and a half before there's an Anderson Cooper sex scandal for sure. CNN just hired anti-Trumper Jonah Goldberg.
They got Chris Wallace. I knew about that.
Did not know about that. They also picked up Chris Wallace. Yep. I didn't know about any of this. Well, they're losing so many anchors to sex scandals. They have to get some new people on the team. Grant says, "Are you sure you went to CNN and you weren't at a farm watching the bull take a dump?" I'm not sure. I was drinking that day. I don't know what was happening. Another thing behind the scenes happening is CNN ratings are trash. Maybe the change has to do with that, probably. But they're rather not say it has to do with that. That's the point I was making. Ron says, face it, folks, there's a mafia government running things. I think it's been that way forever. That's not a recent thing.
No, it's not.
Ron says it's a shame that reporter Lee was suicidal. Air quotes. I guess it's best not to question their lies because they get sad about it. Sewell thinks cancer's too complex to be cured. He may be right. I think it can be, though. I mean, it's cured now. They just call it remission instead of cured because it can come back.
Right.
He said the treatments will improve. Sewell says you're assuming India has good data collection. Sewell says nothing else works for COVID because if something did the poke, would lose its emergency use authorization. I didn't think of that, but that's very true. Sewell says if a Glock is a weapon of war, then any semi-auto pistol over the last 120 years is a weapon of war. And Sewell's letting us know that the military uses a Beretta 9mm or M9, Beretta M9. Might be dyslexic too. When Ron Helton was in the military, they used 45. All right, we're gonna skip the military gun history lesson. There's a lot of it. I didn't realize we had so many veterans in the chat. Thank you all very much for your service. I honestly really do appreciate it. Spartan says founding fathers wanted people to be able to own cannons. True. Fact check true. Mary says my old boss in Massachusetts has a cannon in his backyard and fires it every day at noon.
I've heard of that. I've never seen it happen, but I've heard people talking about that.
I didn't know that was a thing. I would go watch a cannon being fired. On holidays here in Kennesaw, which is a couple of towns over from me, there's a national battlefield park and they fire cannons like on 4th of July and stuff.
Based.
McConnell is here. Welcome, welcome. Seawall says, will you be willing to review Weeb movies? Say no.
Yeah, there is some degeneracy there.
Say
I do
no.
want to do the Cowboy Bebop movie, but that's because I like that series.
I don't know what it is. It sounds dumb. McConnell says seeing as how your media people without either of those two things. You might as well be lizards.
It's a known fact, 2 things lizard media people do not do: drink eggs and show fish.
McConnell wants to see Mr. Zed, Proof of Life. If Mr. Zed wants to come in here, he's welcome to. Chilaga's here. And Seawall's letting me know that he's not a vet, he's just a weapons nerd.
I am kind of too. I just started that not that long ago, but the more I learn, the more I want to.
And we're caught up.
All right, then I think
I'm
that we're
getting
done.
better at this reading thing.
All right. So with that, I think we're out of here for the night. What do you think?
I think we're done.
All right, and I do want to thank everybody who came by and chatted with us in the live chat. As we finished out the day, McConnell, Ron Helton, Chilaga, Seawall, Life to the Max, all the people that came in here and came out and kept us on task, ongoing, and everything else that we've had to do here, and even kept us corrected on some of the things too. So with that, we are going to end out the show. We'll be back here. I'll be back here tomorrow morning early for...
Mikado wants Proof of Life. Come here. He's sneaking in.
We have Proof of Life.
He's here.
He's alive.
People.
What's up, peoples?
All right, we're ending.
Bye.
Bye. I told you he exists.
All right, and McConnell's accusing us of CGI too. All right, I'll be back here tomorrow morning with more contemporary. We'll be back here. We'll be talking news headlines, 7:15 a.m. Central Time, for the news of the day, which I've actually got to gather and figure out what it was because I've spent so much time today looking at the last week's news. So, surprise for tomorrow. We'll see what's coming in here tomorrow. Come back and join us. KTZed will be joining me again next week for KTZed Redemption. So come back and join us for that. That's going to be a little bit of a shorter show. So
Valentine's Day special.
Absolutely. So everybody will get out of here on time, and like Seawall will be able to go use that Valentine's Day reservation and go hang out with somebody sweet for him. And with that, we're going to call it a night. As I always say on this channel, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. KTZed, lead everybody out with some last words.
I hope everybody has a spectacular week, and I can't wait to see you all again next Monday.
Take care, everyone.